Hey everyone, Rick here, and folks, welcome back to another unit review for Battlefields of Mana. This is the next iteration in the series focusing on Marauders. So again, if this is your first Marauder unit overview, Marauders are kind of a sub-third faction of bandits and mercenaries. So unlike Lunar Knights and Regal Guard, who have identical forces, both of them have archers, both have heavy cab, etc. Their unit profiles are exactly the same. Just the miniatures and the color schemes they're painted are different. This is a completely separate third faction with their own unit types. Now, similar to Regal Guard and Lunar Knights, the Marauders also have their own equivalent of a unit commander. These are individual miniatures that can be added to a unit to boost their stats a little bit. So we have here on the little turntable an example of a Marauder Sergeant on foot, a Marauder Sergeant on horseback, and let's go ahead and stick a Marauder Sergeant in a unit to show you what that might look like. So here we have a unit of Marauder Cavalry. We have foot and mounted Marauder Sergeants because depending on the unit type, you will put the one that matches. So for example, in this case, we have Cavalry, so we will put a Marauder Sergeant on horseback in that unit. And then any figures that you replace would then be put in the back on this turntable. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of room, but essentially you can imagine he'd be hanging back here in a third rank. You can put him in any of the three slots. Of course, if an opponent was attacking this flank, you would move the figure over there. You always want to maximize the number of figures in contact. But that's what he would look like in this unit. And then what does he bring to the table? Well, as you can see from the stat sheet, attack dice, he mimics the unit essentially, but he has one extra attack die and a better initiative. So as per unit, so in this case, Marauder Cavalry are 2 dice apiece. So he would be 3 dice. So in this case, in the front rank, we would have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 attack dice attacking in the front rank. Combat strength is as per unit. So again, Marauder Cavalry are +1 to their attack dice. So his 3 dice would also be +1. Armor is as per unit. So he would have an armor of 3 as well. Defensive special ability, yes, they have Resilient, which rerolls 1s in defense. So he would have that as well. No range. Movement would match because that would make sense with foot. If this was a foot Marauder Sergeant, he would have, a 4-inch movement if he was attached to a unit of Marauder Thugs. Whereas this Marauder Sergeant on horseback has a movement of 6 inches since he's attached to a cavalry unit. Health is 2, as always, but he has the unit commander special ability. So initiative of +5, you always take the higher initiative. If you have single figures in a unit with a higher initiative than the unit, then the whole unit takes that single figure's initiative. So adding this Marauder Sergeant to the unit gives you an extra attack die and bumps that initiative up to a +5, and that's huge. Going first in close combat is everything in Battlefields of Mana, because when you are in close combat and you're determining who goes first, you roll a d6, as does your opponent, and you add the initiative modifier. In this case, this Marauder Sergeant would give you a +5 to your die roll. Good God. Also, the unit commander special ability says, normally single figures like this attached to units cannot be singled out in range, but they can in close combat. So if we had a unit that was attacking this unit, and this unit could decide to either separate its attacks, put some on the unit and some on the unit commander, or put them all on the unit, or put them all on the unit commander. So the unit commander can be, I keep calling it unit commander, it's a Marauder Sergeant. The Marauder Sergeant can be singled out in close combat, so with only 2 HP, he could get picked off pretty easily, right? Well, I guess he does have the unit commander special ability, so it's okay to say that. He gets an extra defense die. So no matter how many attack dice get past his armor, he gets 1 more defense dice than that number of attack dice. So you have to kind of think about that when you're separating your attacks. You're like, well, he's going to get 1 more defense dice and I have attack dice. Is it even worth singling him out then? Well, maybe, because he's making the unit go first probably all the time with a +5 initiative. Plus, he's adding extra attack dice, so it may be worth it to go after him. And then his cost. He either cost 1 point or 2 points. 1 point if you attach a unit commander, or I'm sorry, a Marauder Sergeant to a unit that costs 3 or less. Or he costs 2 points if you attach him to a unit that costs 4 or more. So in this case, this unit of Marauder Cavalry costs 5 points. So attaching a Marauder Sergeant to this unit costs 2 extra points. But of course, that's because they're so good. His combat profile is going to be amazing. So he costs 2 points instead of 1 point. But you kind of have to weigh those odds. Is going first probably most of the time, an extra attack dice worth 2 points? Or is that 2 points better spent on an entire unit of Marauder skirmishers, maybe? So, you're weighing the options, but that's what a Marauder Sergeant looks like. Now, unlike other single figures that we'll talk about in a little bit that can come and go as they please, a Marauder Sergeant is attached to the unit during deployment and can never leave that unit. So it starts in the unit, it'll finish in that unit. Also, when you are removing casualties, you do always remove the banner bearer last. That means you will still put wounds on the unit commander before you will on the banner bearer. But the unit, or the Marauder Sergeant, will be the second to last figure removed from a unit. And also, if you are basically down to just the Marauder Sergeant and the banner bearer left, you don't even need to split up your attacks at that point. You can say all the attacks are still going on the unit, and then any wounds still go to the Marauder Sergeant first before the banner bearer, and the Marauder Sergeant didn't even get that extra defense die because he wasn't singled out. So that may be another reason why you hold out on separating your attacks, because you know that eventually he's not going to get that extra defense die if you whittle them down enough. But is it too little too late by that point? You never know. All right, folks, that is it. That's how Marauder Sergeants work in Battlefields of Mana. Thank you all so much for watching. I do truly appreciate it. And until next time.